All right, welcome to Geopolitics and Conflict live
Hi.
for you here, guys. This is specially for you. It's because, as Russ and I were discussing, we realized on Fridays not enough time
We had
to
more good
answer.
questions. They were good questions
Yeah.
too,
So
and good comments.
exactly, and this is what we're gonna be doing from now on, guys. Just for you to know, we're gonna be doing once a week where we allocate the entire hour just for your questions. Ask anything, and if we can't answer, I personally say I can't answer that. So, but that's what we're gonna be doing. So we'll post it, and you're gonna see it. But first, we want to thank our viewers as always.
We want to thank you for watching, for participating, for subscribing. And if you have not subscribed yet, guess what we're going to ask you to do? You got it. Subscribe.
Exactly.
As you know, we've got a message that we're putting out, and we want to reach as many people with quality information so they can make up their own minds and impact their small world.
Exactly. And we also want to let you know about our membership. So remember to check us out at geopoliticsinconflict.com. And speaking of membership, by the way, we do have a presentation for our members on Friday,
Right.
the 3rd, about the death of the US dollar, or the inevitable death of the US dollar.
Oh, and is it a hot topic? And,
So-
and it's one of those things that you need to be prepared for because it's inevitable and it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's coming. We don't know exactly when, but it's coming soon.
Yeah, exactly. So in an event, make sure you check it out. And without further ado, let's jump into your questions. And we're gonna the camera up. We're gonna be because we have a screen here. So we're gonna be getting into your questions. And we'll just answer to the best of our abilities. So, and by also, guys, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm on Twitter at D and Elizabeth is at Alchemy of E. So make sure you check it out, and because that's where we post our stuff and all the communication and so forth. So, all right. Without further ado, let's jump to the first question, and we'll read the question, and one of us will answer it based on the content of what the question is all about. Verifiable, our buddy Verifiable.
Hi, Verifiable.
Verifiable's been with us for quite a while.
I was just reading about this morning. This is really a hot topic.
Yeah. All right, let me see here. Saudi Arabia is considering to end the petrodollar agreement. Is this a strong sign of appreciation on US dollar? Is eroding fast? More hardship for Americans. Well, that's some topic I can talk about a little bit more, because I wrote a book about the Saudis. I cannot suggest highly enough for you guys to check out that book. It's not that expensive, but just check it out. It's called Beneath the Veil, The Fall of the House of Saud. And in it, I address this issue of the petrodollar and how it came to be. Well, the reason why the Saudis, of course, wanted to shake the US on this one has a political inclination to it. And the reason being, that has nothing to do with oil. That has to do, with what? With the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, in which Biden said that Saudis will have to be brought to justice. That is one of the reasons why Saudis refuse to increase oil production.
Oh, that's something you don't hear.
No, you don't, because as a matter of fact, the Central Intelligence Agency declassified the report indicating, and I do have access to it, I saw it, indicating that indeed it was the prince who ordered the assassination and the barbaric killing of Jamal Khashoggi. So that is the reason why. But here is the geopolitical implications to something like this. Removing the dollar out of the petrol transactions will be bad news for the United States. I'll say it straightforward, because as you all know, guys, and I'm sure you do, the petrodollar was agreed upon in the 70s.
Right, 71.
Yeah. But even before that, the conversation started back after World War II between the United States. And even before that, that conversation started in 1932.
Wow.
When we discovered oil in the Saudis. And that's when it became the special relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States. And I detailed all this in the book, by which we said to the Saudis, we're going to provide you security in return for oil. Yeah. But in the 70s, the decision was made Especially, of course, you have to tie this to the 1949 with the creation of the Bretton Woods system, in which the dollar became the global currency, and all the transactions in oil is going to be in dollar. Not anymore. Now you see in China, for example, with Iran,
Yeah.
they are transacting in different currency other than the US dollar. Basically, one. The Saudis even, I found out that they sent oil to China and accepted the Chinese yuan,
Oh, how interesting.
which is bad. Yeah. So to go back to your question, Beryakov, it will be bad news for the US given where things are going. Oh, look who's
Hey,
here.
Boone.
Hi, Boone. Good to see you. Question: Do democratic countries see their own performance? How many of them are critically aware of their own shortcomings? Do you see any chances of American democracy improving to the days of FDR? What a profound question. What do you think, Russ?
No.
Short answer is no. Well, you're absolutely correct, Russ.
I think what we're looking at is who actually runs the United States. Is it the Congress? Is it the president? Is it the people? And we have a resounding no in all of those situations.
Exactly.
We have wealthy, powerful oligarchs and power mongers that are dictating practically everything that's going on, including they're getting richer by the day.
Yeah.
You know, last year was the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of the world to the wealthy. They're going, well, who do you think's running things if that's what's happening?
And same thing. Last year, the U.S. printed about 40% of money than it ever did for the last 200 years. So, yeah, who's running the country, whatever? Those are the elites behind the scenes, what I always call them, the hidden hand. So, a lot of Americans do not understand that the American president has no power. There's behind the scenes. So, there are now questions coming up to the surface as to, okay, what is democracy doing for me? When you start to see this gap widening in the American society, people, you and I, we watch how things are, Russ. People are living paycheck to paycheck.
It's a very common theme that we hit on a lot. Because I'm in a situation where I get to talk to a whole lot of people, what this really means is that every month it gets harder and harder for over half the families in the United States to put food on the table.
Exactly.
I mean, and you say, well, America's such a rich country. Oh, forget it.
Yeah, rich is not for everybody. So basically what I see coming up, Boone, is the idea of now this geopolitical shift is going to put the question forward. Usually you won't hear about it here in the US, but the question that's going to come forward is the system working? Democracy per se, capitalism per se, is it working? So that's the question this geopolitical shift is going to force the debate on this issue, because now you are seeing, here we live in so-called democracy, and yet, people are struggling. You're not supposed to struggle in a democracy. We live in a democracy per se, and yet the gap is widening beyond belief. And all this is going to put forth the question as the geopolitical landscape is shifting, and not to the favor of the U.S.
Let me share a story with everybody.
Certainly.
In the city we live in 20 years ago, there was one part of town that was remarkably well known for the extreme wealth of the people who lived there. And because people talk to me, I mean, I have something in my personality. They'll tell me anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interviewing these two young guys. They were in their late 20s. They were somewhere in the financial industry, and they came from money. And what they both just straight out said is that God ordained us to be wealthy. And really, all these other people around here are just to serve us. And you think they didn't care at all about all the other people around, because they were special. And right now we're seeing a whole class of upper middle class and lower upper class people in the United States that have adopted the same attitude. I mean, and there are millions of them. They're doing well, while the rest of the country is sinking.
Yeah, I tend to be wary anytime I hear the word God.
Yeah, so, God ordained us to be wealthy.
Just to go back to your question, Boone, yes, it will be some questions coming up with that. Now, the other question is whether it's going to make change or not within the American society. I don't see it. The reason being because the masses here are not well informed. So to them, this concept of, is democracy working for me? That question might not even resonate with them. So we're not going to see changes here, at least for the foreseeable future. Things might change, of course, but it's just hard to tell at this point.
Well, the people with all the power are doing well.
Well, because they're controlling the process.
Because they're controlling it.
Next question, we'll see what it is. And Ariel. Hi, Ariel.
Hi, Ariel.
Didn't see Ariel for a while. Do you think Latino America is at risk of a division between pro-Chinese and pro-American governments? Whoa, 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 whoa. What a profound question.
How do you come up with such good questions? And I think that the answer is we are going to see this conflict. Cuba is the perfect example. China says we're going to invest in Cuba, and they are doing it with technology and more.
Yeah.
And what choice does Cuba have because of all the sanctions and the ups and downs going on with the American government concerning Cuba? America is not investing in them. They're not even, matter of fact, they have now for 70 years profoundly hurt the well-being of the Cuban people. And for what reason?
Yeah.
And Cuba's a threat?
Exactly.
Cut me a break.
Yeah. And actually the fear in the US is that if Cuba will serve as a model for Latin America. Because when you look at their healthcare, they are far better than any other country.
They're noted worldwide for the quality of their healthcare.
Yeah.
And they've sent doctors to trouble spots all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, you will see that division emerging more. I mean, this is nothing but it will be a reflection of what took place during the 70s. And we all know the history of the United States in the 70s in Latin America with the support of certain regimes that can favor the U.S. policy. That can, this is not what you notice also in Africa.
Yeah.
With the push towards this debt trap from China and all that stuff, which, is the same tactics that was used in the 70s in Latin America. Now, in Latin America is going to be the question now for the leadership there for those countries, which path they want to take. I can just see now there are certain conversations in Argentina. As a matter of fact, I've been having some contact there
for a while now
to find out. Yes, yeah, there are some conversation. Doesn't come to the forefront yet. Same thing. You have conversations in Chile. Those are tied to what China provides as far as project and what the U.S. trying to undermine. So you're gonna see that hidden competition between China and the U.S. over dominance.
And you take a look at Australia, who is fallen out of favor based on who knows what kind of thinking is going on in Canberra. And you say, well, how about the Chinese just buy Chilean wine? How about they just buy Argentine wine? How about Argentine beef? The world is full of products.
Exactly.
And these countries have a great deal to benefit from a relationship with China.
Exactly. So it will be interesting to see. Next question. Let me see who. Cherry Kotogari. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Thank you for being here. So, question: what's the general U.S. citizen opinion on the Central Intelligence Agency? Do they know regime change operation initiated by CIA? Do U.S. citizens support those efforts? Well, actually, just the short answer to that: most Americans do not even know. Yeah, they will not know this because those will fall under some, ops, dark ops per se, or black ops as we call them. They're not gonna know. They don't get reported. All they know is that Central Intelligence Agency involved with foreign intelligence, like every other country has. You think about MI6 in Britain. You think about the FSB. Even the China has its own intelligence apparatus that deals with foreign intelligence. All countries have those. Yes, the Central Intelligence Agency has been involved, which is a tool for U.S. government as part of what we do. So, but just to go back to the last part of the question, most Americans will not even pay attention to something like that. That's why they don't know.
Interesting how many films for the last 30 years have portrayed the CIA as absolute enemies of the people. And it's a very, very popular theme in movies today.
Yeah. Next question.
We got a super sticker.
How do you pronounce that?
Chunga Liang.
Lian, thank you so much.
What
for
a good
this
picture.
super sticker. And actually, I read his comments all the time. So thank you for your support. Thank you for the super sticker. So we truly appreciate it. So, yeah, he posted some comments, very very pragmatic and thought provoking, because it makes you think. You answer, but also that's for a debate.
Yeah.
And I truly appreciate that a lot. So. David Bell. Good.
Before we get into that one, back to the CIA one really quickly. So there's a lot of, the term conspiracy theory and all of that stuff. It's used to dismiss the credibility of some of these things that are coming up in.
Oh, good point.
So can you speak to that really quickly?
I can't follow your thinking.
So
Say it louder.
No, let's move on. Let's move on, because we need to cover this stuff. Next question, David Bell. At which point will the U.S. admit that they are no longer the #1 economy in the world and declare China has overtook them? Or will the U.S. feel the need to attack to deflect?
Well, we're seeing they're attacking to deflect right now.
But attack in what way? Attack through information part. Because if he is referring, David, if you are referring to attack as in a military setting, there is the possibility of that as well. But as far as the U.S. accepting that China unseated the U.S. As a global economy, that ain't gonna happen. It's because the U.S. wouldn't want to do that. They won't want to do it, even though it's a fact. You look at, and we're gonna be talking about that one in our presentation about the inevitable death of the dollar. In which we're gonna have one specific slide that shows back in 2004. The balance of economy between China and Russia, how it was tilted towards the US. In 2014, it became even. And in 2024, this is what it's expected to be, with China being at the top. So
remember, we were in a conversation yesterday with a real China expert. And one of the things that he said is that when the average Chinese worker is as productive as the average American worker, the Chinese economy will be 4 times bigger than the U.S. economy.
Exactly. Speaking of the guest, make sure you guys watch next week the video we're going to be releasing about this guest. Without want to disclose the name yet, but someone you guys recommended. He's well respected and understands Chinese history inside out. He's an academician. So just to go back to this question here, no, the U.S. is not. The West in general is not going to want to admit to this, because that's part of where that geopolitical shift comes in. And who's this country that used to dominate the global order will want to say, we're no longer the top dog. They're not going to. But what you're going to see basically is certain tactics used to undermine the emerging power. My big question, and I will fall back some thousands of years to none other than Thucydides, who talked about the trap. When an emerging power will unseat a sitting power, could this lead to a conflict, military one? That would be very interesting to watch.
Oh, won't it?
Yeah. And those are our accounts, by the way, for Twitter, guys, if you see it on the screen there. So, all right, Seekers. Oh, Seeker, by the way, thank you so much for that was Seeker. Thank you so much. And I did comment on it and I let him know. So we want to thank you, Seeker, for that super sticker yesterday on that live stream. So question, the freedom of navigation has been conducted by the US for over 10 years. What is the end game? And has the US achieved its objectives? Incredible question.
It is, isn't
it? That falls at the heart of what global security and geopolitical question is all about. Yeah. Now, did the US achieve the objective? Not necessarily, because the other party, in this case China, did not want to respond physically, that is. So they are giving diplomacy a chance. They are giving sort of cool heads to prevail from the US side. But apparently we are pushing too much. This is now why you're seeing what's going on with between Russia and NATO.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, NATO issued a warning yesterday for Russia. Really? You are the one going into the Black Sea conducting training there, and you are issuing a warning to Russia? It just doesn't make any sense. So, and basically where the US is going with this claim of the navigation system, like what our guest said yesterday, because we asked him about the Taiwan without giving too much here, is like, that just doesn't make any sense because Taiwan is part of China.
Right.
So what are you talking about of this navigation system, navigation rights and so forth? So
when the United States is clearly violating China's water.
Yeah, I mean, we just look at it for us. How would we feel if Russia or China or Iran or whatever country comes closer to the Gulf of Mexico or the tip of Florida near the waters of the US waters? So how are we going to feel about it? Or go to Hawaii? Or, it's just coming. The challenge that I always see, Ross, is we apply the rules to others, but we don't want them to apply to us.
Does it apply? Remember 1961, the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Mm-hmm.
What was the U.S. response to a sovereign country who potentially had Russian missiles? The threat of nuclear war, and they were prepared.
Yeah,
I understand it. In recent, I understand that it was the cooler heads of Russia that prevented this from actually becoming a hot war.
Mm-hmm.
The United States was going forward.
Exactly. But did we ever ask the question, how did this start to begin with? When it was the US that placed nuclear weapons in Turkey? Directing? I mean,
a detail that sort of didn't hit the public eye.
Yeah, of course. The media won't want to disclose that, but that's how it's. So the idea of did the US achieve? No, in my opinion, it did not. William, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Question, thank you for being here, by the way. China is building infrastructure in developing countries. And why is America addicted to foreign interventions?
How about loss of power?
That's one. How about feeding the beast in Washington, D.C., the industrial complex?
How about the rich getting richer by keeping others down?
How about maintaining the dollar hegemony on the global financial system? How about maintaining global dominance around the world? Like every other entity, you kind of take over for what, but at some point it's going to end.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, and this is where we are at. We are at that point of after 70 plus years of US dominance of the global system, which we did, we're having a hard time adjusting to a new reality that other countries are coming up to the top. That's going to have far more competition to expect from. So, and that is where I see the U.S. struggling with. It is a struggle in Washington, D.C. that we won't, most Americans won't hear much about it unless you know exactly what to look for. And but that's what it is. The changes, it's not to the U.S. favor. Oh, Seekers, once again, thank you so much for your super sticker. We truly appreciate it. And we want you to know, Seekers, it means a lot to us. So we want you to know this one. So we truly appreciate, as you wrote, happy to support David, Ross, and Elizabeth for the work you guys do. So we thank you so much for your support, Seekers. Next one, Abida Aziz. Thank you for being here. What do you think of the future of Afghanistan after all its sanctions?
Oh, what a
question! What an incredible one.
Yes.
I had a chance to spend a couple of years in Afghanistan way back, right after 2001, 2002, whatever, first time. Yeah, I mean, I learned a little bit about Afghanistan before I went over there and understood how complex its history. And I understood also no other major power was ever able to conquer that country. That's why they call it the grave of the empires for a reason. So what's the future of Afghanistan? Well, here is the thing with Afghanistan that majority of Americans do not even know. First of all, they've been told in the US that we won because of to defeat the bad guys and so forth. But they have not been told that the wealth, the mineral wealth that Afghanistan has underground.
It was trillions of dollars
Oh,
worth of rare
oh.
earth minerals and other things.
Incredible, Ross. You won't believe what they have underground. So what the future is, Afghanistan can get together on its own if that is what they want. The only challenge I see for Afghanistan is they have to ensure that their government will have to be inclusive of all ethnicities. And that's where the challenge that I see. If they can achieve that, they will do well. Of course, other countries will support them. Like, for example, China wants to do
Right.
investments there. The U.S. could do that too if they had good intentions for that. But the problem with the U.S. is that credibility. We
Right.
don't have any. Nobody trusts the U.S. anymore.
I wonder why.
So that's the issue. So the future could be bright if they have smart people. You won't believe it. It just they need to ensure that all ethnicities of Afghanistan are included in the government. Jonathan, good to see you, Jonathan. Question: what is your opinion about U.S. Qatar sanctions because Indonesia was not allowed to best weapon to use? I think, yeah, best weapon like F-35. However, U.S. wants to be on their side, yet sanction U.S. for buying Su-35 from Russia. The Qatar, that was the, you familiar with it, Russ?
No.
Right? Yeah, the Qatar was the bill passed by Congress where it would sanction countries if they ever buy other weapons from other countries. Which is weird and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Weird. You aren't kidding.
Yeah. In the case of Indonesia, we need to understand the history of Indonesia when it comes down to the U.S. intervention back in the 70s. That's why Java area has always been of great interest to the U.S. And why is that? Because of the oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, Java area, the whole big thing. Indonesia can be a very, very great nation. It is a great nation historically speaking, but it's just the amount of corruption that exists in that system. You look at it with the BRI, what happened. You remember when Hussein explained to us what's going on with the corruption and how it went? So the idea of the U.S., yes, because they wanted the support of Indonesia because of the islands and the bases and all that. Yeah, you can make it cake and have it, as they say. So the U.S. is kind of shooting itself in the foot by embarking on something like this. And Indonesia will have to think about its own security future moving forward because, as we said last time, ASEAN is not going to side with the U.S. when it comes down to targeting China.
Let's talk a little psychology for just a minute.
Oh, that would be great, Ross.
Many people have in their life sometime have had somebody boss them around or bully them. What do they invariably do? First of all, they hate them.
Mm-hmm.
Second, they undermine everything they can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
And third, if they get even, they're going to. Now we have the United States pushing these sanctions everywhere. And the world now knows that the United States is famous or infamous for it. What is going to be the most natural response from world populations because of this bullying that's going on? Push back anytime you can get away from, anytime you can hurt them. And it's in the plan of what human beings are. They push back against authority.
Resentment.
It's resentment. It's hatred. It's I'll get you later.
Yeah, and the way I see it moving forward, Ross, from a geopolitical perspective again, Indonesia is going to have to be thinking about its own security because after what the fiasco in Afghanistan, we saw. So most countries will be asking that question. Could we be next if we go with the U.S. against China and against none other than China? So they're going to be thinking twice about that. Next question. David Bell. Okay, Thucydides' trap has been evoked 20 times since it was quoted. It has ended in war 16 times. That is an 80% chance of war across history. Will history be repeated? That is a good question. Because
look at the numbers, and it said yes.
Yeah, because Thucydides' theory, the trap theory, has been talked about because China and the U.S. setting provides the perfect example for what Thucydides was talking about, this trap. win an emerging power, because the sitting power doesn't like that one, doesn't like it. So that's why, if we go back to the beginning, when the question was about what the U.S. is going to do, are we talking about military action? Because sometimes that's what a country does.
Yeah.
Britain was notorious for this back in its days, when they used to, if they ever sense there's a resentment, or the population in whatever colony they were having start to think, maybe it's time to push back against the Brits. And the response was military.
Oh,
Yeah.
tragic. Very frequently.
Yeah.
More than tragic.
Exactly. The only one I see in this case might not work for this specific trap, even though the stats suggest 80%. It's we live in a different time. You're talking about some very devastating weapons that exist.
And if we're correct that hypersonic missile from both Russia and China are a game changer.
Yeah, that's what I was think. Literally, policymakers will be thinking twice about, because they will be in it too. Will be vaporized, shall we say? And I'm going to use the term. And you can't go to a bunker and no. We done.
Not when the crater is half a mile deep and 7 miles wide.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no bunker is half a mile deep.
So,
And as we frequently say, if something tragic happens, how many minutes is it before Washington, D.C. is vaporized? 30.
Yeah. So that's why I see this resolve to the war. It's gonna, I don't see that scenario happening unless truly some catastrophe happens with, the U.S. intervention, or China's been pushed too hard, or Russia's been pushed too hard, or whatever. It will have to be some extreme measures by which country has no other option but to defend its own interest. All right, next question. Dakian-san, how are you? I haven't seen you for a while. So, question: how many Americans can accept the fact that U.S. will not be hegemony forever? Will they do stupid things trying to stop the unstoppable?
Well, we're seeing them doing stupid things.
They are indeed.
We don't have to wait.
Yeah, but just the first part of the question, Ross. Most Americans are not paying attention to this because, the concerns about inflation, the concerns about prices.
They're concerned with all the distractions, keep them away from looking at this kind of information and forming opinions.
Yeah.
It could be football, it could be baseball, it could be, how am I going to eat today? How am I going to feed my children? And what Americans are experiencing is a great deal of stress.
Yeah.
The news media keeps piling it on, and major distraction. You see a lot of arguing going on for the last year and a half about pandemic.
Yeah.
Whose side are you on?
Exactly. So, that's where, till Americans become informed, I don't see anything changing. It's just the way it is. It's because, they're too distracted by so many things. And by design.
I have some small amount of hope that there's actually going to be journalists appearing again.
Well, let's hope. This is what we're trying to do with our channel.
That's what we're doing.
That is the whole reason. Now you devote over. If you ask me, do I want to go and take a full-time position as a professor? My answer is no, because I'd rather do this.
Yeah.
I don't need to be wealthy. I don't. I live comfortably enough. I'm content because I also understand the reality that we are just passing through this life. What am I to do accumulating those millions of dollars for what? Instead of just helping the masses, helping humanity for that matter. I'm not being naive here. I understand how the system works, but at the same time, I'm questioning, what am I doing here?
Let's step into psychology again.
Sure.
We're taking a look at any number of very powerful people, very wealthy people, and they keep wanting to accumulate more wealth and more power. And you say, what on earth? If you've got $7 billion, how are you going to spend it? You've already got 1 or 10 or 50 of everything you could ever dream of. But what people don't know is that it affects their internal hormone system.
Wow.
And so you say, well, every time I make more money, I get this rush of particular kinds of hormones, such as testosterone and some others. Those feelings are so addictive, they are opium on steroids.
Oh my God.
And so these people, they really can't help themselves in terms of another billion. Oh, I feel so good.
Hmm.
We see this in great apes who, when they get power, they get a big white stripe of fur down their back. And it is hopelessly addictive because it feels so good, so powerful. And it also distorts your view of the world. You
Wow.
think you're more special than everybody else. You deserve more. Other people are here to serve you. And science has known this for at least 40 years.
Wow. Yeah. So that is very interesting concept. And again, average people is not going to understand the dynamics, and it makes you just wonder.
Yeah.
So. Oh, hey,
Hey,
man. Thank you so much for the super sticker. We truly appreciate it. So much of European history is actually about finding preferable trade routes to India and China with Russian help. Could the pre-Opium War world order be back? Loved the interview with Peter Schiff, by the way. Thank you. That's incredible. You know, that's an interesting question because our guest yesterday, remember when we asked about the Silk Road and the BRI and the historical context, and he talked about this exact point.
He did.
So you know, I don't want to answer this one because I want you guys to really watch that video when our guest addressed this in a more elaborative way, because that's his background.
This interview with this particular guest is so powerful. We can't encourage you enough to watch it at least once all the way through. It's so loaded with quality information, with deep insight and historical background. Watching it twice is not a bad idea.
Yeah. So, but just the short answer, this is where you see the routes now for the BRI, where they are going. And Hussein, our guest in Askari, explained this, that, even now in Europe, they are looking, this is why Europeans are not siding with the US when it comes down to how to deal with China. They're like, same thing with Russia. They are seeing Russia under different lenses. They are closer there, and they understand the history far better than we do. So the BRI or the Silk Road back then served the same purpose of this. So Europeans are more prone to be thinking twice before they embark on policy whether to support the US or not. So. Oh, Anirudh saying thank you very much for your sticker. We truly appreciate that. That's I know what the currency is. That's a
but whatever it is,
whatever
thank
that
you.
is. So thank you so much. We truly appreciate it. So, Saf, question. Recently, Morocco and Israel signed a defense agreement. What do you guys think is the reason behind this?
What another good question.
That is interesting, but also because Morocco had demonstrations yesterday for people not wanting the relationship to be established between Israel and Morocco.
Really?
Yeah. Now, one thing that I know about Morocco is that the Moroccan Jew are very, very influential.
Okay.
So, but Morocco has a good relationship with Israel in the sense of the administration, because there are a lot of Moroccan Jews they live in. But the population, also the government in Morocco, will have to pay attention to the public sentiments on this. So the reason for the defense for that, it has to do with next door neighbor, Algeria. And why is that? It's because Algeria acquired some very high-tech weaponry from none other than Russia and China. So it's the game. It is the game. That's why in North Africa now, Morocco is considered one of the most stable country that has been for a while, and it will remain that way. It's the most stable countries in North Africa. You look at what's taking place in Libya. You look at what's taking place in Tunisia, and even Algeria now. They're going through, I think, the upcoming elections, where there is this fear about, are we going to go back to the 80s, what it was? Because but this one here, this defense, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, it has to do with how Algeria now, because Algeria, to my knowledge, has acquired recently some weapons from Russia. So that's the reason. Next question. Sally Wolf, good to see you. Will China and Chinese companies embrace the metaverse? That's a good question. I don't have the answer for that because I don't know.
I really don't know either.
Yeah, that is a good question.
For one thing, there are so many Chinese companies.
Yeah.
And so many tech companies, and I just can't keep up with all of this going on.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do personally, Ross, for this, I'm going to dig into the information and provide a synopsis that I'll have it on site. When I get a comment from you, I'm going to send it to you. So, but as of now, I don't have an answer for it. So I don't want to speculate whatever. When I don't know, I say, I don't know. So,
and I don't know either. So it's a good question.
But thank you for the question. Truly appreciate it.
We'll follow up with it on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll do it through Twitter. So we'll follow up on it. Next question. Journey, thank you so much for the super sticker. We appreciate it. The question, what on earth that Lithuania think about falling into the US trap? Now Russia and China set a sanction on Lithuania. What do you think happened to Lithuania?
You know, when I read it, when I've been attempted to keep up with this, I just found it laughable. And I don't even know what to say about it.
Exactly. And also the statement from NATO came from Lithuania. That's where the meeting was took place. I had a chance to go to Lithuania way back. So when I used to work in Washington back in the day, yeah, it's kind of like doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And this is why I found it very laughable that NATO is issuing a warning to Russia. That just doesn't make any sense.
When they're the provocateurs, I can't say the word right.
Yeah, the ones that creating the provocations. That's correct.
Yeah, NATO causes this problem and then warns the victim.
But also it tells you something, Russ, which you will know more about than anyone else psychologically, how they are putting that info out to psych the masses as to, oh, NATO is issuing a warning to Russia.
We all need to be afraid some more.
Yeah. So it's, Lithuania, I think they are not thinking straight as to what are they getting themselves into. Yeah, because I can guarantee you this. If Russia's red lines are crossed, any country in the region there is going to be swept into Russia's, shall we say,
sphere of influence,
or it's going to just like fall under the same net that everybody else is going to be, because Russia's red line have been crossed, and Lithuania will be part of that. So yeah, Lithuania will have to think twice about what they're doing. So, Boone again, good to see you, Boone, once again. A question, David, Ross, Elizabeth, has any one of you read The Three-Body Problem by Liu Cixin? Do you see the dark forest problem between the major powers?
I'm not familiar with this, nor the author.
I am not either, Boone. I have not, which makes me not want to go and take a look at it, because if this one is involved with the major powers, I'm usually, that's my area, I concentrate, and I need to, always keep up with what's going on. No, I am not familiar with this, and I'm going to go look it up and see what that is. The only thing I know for a fact is that when you have geopolitical shift, that geopolitical shift is not limited only to political aspects of it. It's limited to economics.
Yep.
It's limited to, it's also includes ideology to a degree. It's also socially speaking, and you start to see these rearrangements within the geopolitical shift that is pushing on some other new venues or new directions. In this case, for what's taking place, as I said, if Russia and China getting closer even more, it's like exactly we asked our guest yesterday the same question. Despite the animosity between the Soviet Union back then and China, they're gonna put those historical differences aside, because now the geopolitical shift requires China and Russia to work together.
We did a special presentation for our members only section on the relationship between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. a deep analysis with some real predictions as to where that relationship is going.
Exactly, and that's where I would see this is going. But just to go back to your question, Boone, I am not familiar with that author, and I am going to check it out. Oh, fucking hell. I hope that was funny.
Oh,
That was a funny
okay, you
one.
guys, you're on with this one.
Question. Any more information as to why Germany is closing down its nuclear power stations? Yeah, we did this live on it yesterday. And that's the question that we posed for our viewers also, because it defies logic as to, here it is, only a few years ago or so, they had the plan to ensure the upgrade of those nuke plants till 2034.
Oh, the timing is perfect. If you've ever been in Germany in the winter, it's cold.
I know, that's what...
So they're going to shut down. What percentage of the energy is provided? Do you remember?
And I remember the one for Switzerland. They provide about 40%, but Germany provides some
Substantial amount.
If I'm not mistaken, 24. If I'm not mistaken, but it's substantial in a sense that. But for it to be done at this time unexpectedly, that tells me, when I was talking to Elizabeth about it, my brain went directly to, is there some safety issues here that the government is not disclosing?
And why they would shut all of them.
All of them, not just one or
Right.
two, whatever. All of them. So, and this goes beyond politics because the Green Party there, no. There is something else. And we don't have the answer for it as of now. So I do happen to have family members in Germany. So I intend to reach out and just to have a conversation just to see what the deal is. But thank you for the question. How do you pronounce the name?
In-house core.
I hope we pronounce it correctly. Question, and thank you for being here. What are your thoughts on the EU demanding verifiable proof from China about the safety of recent missing tennis player Feng Shui? I hope I pronounced it correctly. No.
It's Shui, but okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I'm not following up on this too much because it's the same thing for, what happened to some journalists that disappeared here in the West? What about their fate?
Well, I've been following this fairly closely.
Mhm.
And I think what the government is doing is they're doing damage control. Did the event actually occur? It appears that it did.
Oh, if it did, then that's a different conversation.
And this is a senior retired Communist Party official.
Oh.
And the victim stood up and screamed loudly if this went on. And a week later, we see her back in the public eye, saying, "Oh, it was just a mistake, and I'm happy to be here." And the suspicion is that she was intimidated, really intimidated, and told she better put on a happy face or else.
Ooh.
And this is not uncommon to happen in every country.
Yeah. But I will say this, it's not right if this proved to be true and the Chinese government didn't take the necessary step against the guy. It doesn't matter who he is. Who gives a damn about who he is? If he behaves that way, it better for the Chinese government to take action immediately, because that's what the right thing to do is. This could backfire on Chinese government if it does not do the right thing.
It already is backfiring.
Yeah, because
And we know that the Chinese Communist Party is very protective of its reputation, of its
exactly,
members,
exactly.
and it's not good for your health if you're going to go against the government and the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is, and it's been that way for a very long time.
Exactly. But at the same time, and I would not shy away from saying this, if it is proved wrong, because that person's behavior, doesn't represent the entire party. It doesn't matter what country
It does
you're in,
not.
which means it becomes the role of the government to step in and take action against that person, because that person doesn't represent the entire government. So, and I can't say this enough, that it will not be to the benefit of the credibility of the central government in China if this was true and have not taken action. And if I'm going to look into this to make sure, because if it is, I am going to speak on it, because I don't sugarcoat it. You guys know this. And just to be fair, to all parties. We are in for the truth. So. But as to the EU, EU also should be fair to what happened to other journalists or whomever you want to call them.
We suspect it was not a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, not we suspect, we know it.
Yeah, but
We
you
have
look at
ample evidence.
look at what happened in England with what's his name, Assange.
No, yeah.
How come? Where's the EU into that?
Right.
Let's be fair. To me, let's be fair. What happened to Assange with the way things went about? Just because it disclosed information that people needs to know. Come on, where do you draw the line? You can, as I always say, you can't be cherry picking what works for you and not works for you. You blame others, but you do it yourself. That's just not right. So, next question, Thunder Dragon. I like this.
I like it too. Yeah.
So, thank you for being here. So, will China move into Afghanistan and rent background from the we don't pronounce that name there, by the way, just because we'll get censored. You know how censorship is. In order to get closer to the ETIM to counter them. No, I don't see that. I really don't see that. The reason being because you have to think in terms of optics. If China rents Bagram, what image it is sending into the world? Oh, China's establishing military base. That's why I don't see them doing that one. So they won't go about it that way.
Also, historically, China does not do that.
Yeah.
And we're now looking at questionably 4,000 to 5,000 years of China being disinterested in establishing military bases or conquering territory outside of their small realm.
Exactly. And our guest yesterday provided the arguments, the historical argument for why that is.
It's not part of the Chinese mindset to go conquer and militarily rule.
Yeah. What I do see China doing is engaging the government there as far as economic joint ventures that will benefit China. It will benefit Afghanistan. It's part of business. That's what I see it going.
And my understanding is the Chinese are being very cautious with this, watching it carefully to make sure that they don't step into something they don't want to be involved in.
And they better be, because Afghanistan is a complicated country. And given the history there, it's very complicated. So that's why we failed, because we couldn't understand it. All right, next question is from Tom Putra. Good to see you here, man. What is your opinion on Turkish Lira going hyperinflation? Will this trigger a massive refugee waves to Europe? Good question.
It is.
As a matter of fact, I just read this morning that President Erdogan is launching an investigation as to whether it was a manipulation with the Lira. The currency speculators.
Yeah,
we have one here. Soros is involved in the currency, so that's how he made his billions, because the speculation on the currency back in the, I think, mid-90s or something like that. Yeah, there is now the investigation going for that. Europe usually gets concerned anytime there are refugee issues, because Turkey, the strategically located Turkey is the gateway. That's why Turkey is important to the US from a strategic perspective, because it has entrance to two sides, Asia and Europe. So that could be, but so far till the report comes out as far as to what the investigation is going to lead to, it will be, but it is bad as far as it dropped substantially. So, and we're going to keep an eye on it.
Is there some underlying, the question to ask long term is, what's underneath this manipulation? Don't have an answer right now, but something is underneath it.
Because what we need to remember, Ross, is that Europe has always objected to Turkey being a EU member.
Oh,
yeah. So double standards there, right there.
Last one.
All right, last question, because we have to go do some preparations for our presentation. Gales Miller, good to see you. What do you think about China shutting down access to AIS ship tracking data? I am not familiar with this.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I'm not aware of this one here. So
maybe we could hit one more question, because
yeah.
we're both stymied with this one.
And by the way, before I forget, guys, today is Ross's birthday. So make sure you send him happy birthday comment.
It's a privilege to be alive this long.
Saf, another question. What is your guys' opinion on the new treaty between Italy and France? Is France searching a new partner in the EU who is more aligned in areas like military, debt, etc.? Yeah, given what's going on between France and England, tit for tat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will be a possibility to that, because here is the thing about France. France, is realizing that France is declining one step at a time. And one of the things that contributing to that, it has to do with its immigration policies.
Oh.
Yeah, it's France is turned upside down. Gone France that I used to read about back in the 70s, 80s, when at that time used to be Valéry Giscard d'Estaing used to be the president, François Mitterrand used to be the president. There were some very figures that truly understood French history and so forth. Of course, France has its dark history as well when it comes down to the colonization of North Africa, mainly Algeria and Morocco, because Morocco got independence in 1956, if I'm not mistaken, from France. So, but France today, because Europe today is not Europe that used to be. Europe is divided.
Right.
And this is what we don't hear here in the West. In the media here in the US, they won't disclose that.
A while ago, I was involved in mergers of French companies and American companies. And so I got to meet a lot of French people. And they said, France is changing so rapidly and it's going down. They said, based on immigration, that the healthcare system is now all but shot. It's bankrupt.
Yeah.
And what used to be French culture isn't anymore because so many other cultures have joined France.
Yeah. It's so if France is going forward with this deal with Italy, it's for convenience.
Okay.
Because if Germany has its own things going on inside, especially now with Angela Merkel leaving. They don't know what the new guy is gonna be, the new chancellor.
Yeah, he's really a great mystery.
Yeah, how he's gonna behave, and France wants to ensure that there is at least some European partner they can maintain relationships. Well, we're gonna end it here, guys, and we want to thank you for being here. Of course, we're gonna see you live on Friday, our normal day. We do that. We're gonna do this session again next week. I'm assuming on Wednesday. We'll announce it. We'll just make sure you check on the postings, because that's how Elizabeth posts the stuff a day before with the timing. And of course, we will concentrate only on your questions, because we feel on Friday. Oh, somebody sent super sticker.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We truly appreciate it. Look what it says. Happy birthday, Dr. Ross. Keep up the good job, gang. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate it.
And we can't tell you how much we appreciate the quality of your questions and comments. These are really astonishing.
Yeah, indeed. And that's why we made that decision to have session just for questions. So remember to subscribe if you have not done so. Of course, Elizabeth was looking into one of the comments that says some of you tried to subscribe and wasn't allowed to for some reason. She's looking into that. We'll find out what the issue. But if you have not done so, please subscribe. Also, check out our membership at the geopoliticsinconflict.com. And as always, stay informed, and we look forward to seeing you on Friday. Bye-bye.